Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand.
She might have a lawsuit too.
Singer Dawn Richard testifies that Sean Diddy Combs hit Cassie Ventura with a skillet full of eggs.
You got to go back to the drugs and the alcohol, man. The drugs and the alcohol, man. And those things will make you do strange things.
What does it take to shut down a courtroom? Dawn Richard's account of Cassie's alleged abuse by Diddy left everyone speechless. Prepare for the explosive revelations that pulled the curtain on an unimaginable reality.
Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand. The defense hit her hard during cross-examination, asking her about a stint in rehab for PTSD, a rape allegation, and asking her to read explicit text messages from over the past 15 years.
Richard accused Combs of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and a hostile work environment by being exposed to sex trafficking and sex acts. She also alleged that she was a victim of false imprisonment. In her suit, Richard stated she was seeking compensatory and punitive damages, as well as other costs for post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and emotional suffering, and financial losses she suffered as a result of Combs' alleged behavior. Combs has denied her allegations. His lawyer told E! News in September, Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. Richard's testimony in Combs' ongoing trial comes 8 months after she accused the rapper in a lawsuit of subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit, filed in September, obtained by E! News, stated, Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Ms. Richard wearing only his underwear, despite Ms. Richard's protests and repeated requests for him to put on clothing. In her filing, the 41-year-old also alleged that Combs ordered her to strip down to her underwear, made demeaning remarks about her body, and entered her dressing room unannounced while she was unclothed, and touched her without her permission under the guise of showing the stylist what to do.
Dawn Richard's testimony struck the courtroom like lightning. A former member of Danity Kane girl group, created by Diddy's direction. Dawn was more than a former colleague. She was an intimate observer of the workings of Diddy's inner circle. This made her testimony one of the most vital in the first week of trial. People were anticipating that she might have a couple of things to say, but the information she laid out left the room speechless. What precisely did she say regarding Cassie's supposed abuse, which was so significant it rendered an entire courtroom silent? Dawn's relationship with both Diddy and Cassie wasn't merely professional, it was extremely personal. As part of Danity Kane, she worked closely alongside Diddy, which means she dealt with him and the individuals surrounding him on a day-to-day basis. Cassie, of course, being his long-term girlfriend, a relationship which many believed seemed glamorous on the surface.
If she witnessed, and she's saying that she witnessed a gangbang, which actually we know it as called a train. And she worked on the album, The Train to Paris. And like I heard one of the YouTube, it could be Tistel, say that we didn't know what the train to Paris meant. But now we know that the train to Paris was a train in Scotland. It wasn't a train in Paris, it was a train in Scotland. Only time I ever witnessed doing something is when 2 guys and 2 girls would go in the room. And that was just regular. And however they did it, whatever they did, that was their business. But he'd gotten bold enough, whereas that he would do that in front of Dawn and other people at a poolside in Scotland. You sure it was Scotland, man?
Danity Kane alum Dawn Richard, who began working with Sean Diddy Combs while competing on his show Making the Band in 2004, took the stand after Cassie wrapped her testimony May 16th. Richard joined Combs' group Diddy Dirty Money after Danity Kane disbanded. While on the stand, she told jurors that she saw Combs hit Ventura with a skillet full of eggs at his Los Angeles home in 2009. Richard testified per NBC News. He came downstairs asking where his phone was, and he threw her to the ground. He attempted to kick her. She fell to the ground and went into the fetal position, literally trying to hide her head. In addition to striking Ventura with the skillet, Richard said Combs put his arm around the singer's neck and took her upstairs before she heard glass breaking. Richard added, "I was scared for her. I was scared to do anything."
But Dawn's testimony had painted so much darker a picture of what actually transpired behind closed doors. Her testimony lent context to the years of rumors of abuse that had surrounded Diddy and Cassie's relationship. When it was Dawn's turn to testify, the courtroom's tension changed immediately. She recounted instances where she supposedly watched as Diddy's explosive temper had people around him tiptoeing during every interaction. According to her, these tantrums didn't discriminate against Cassie, who frequently took the brunt of his rage. Dawn made it plain that her account wasn't hearsay, but based on experiences she had witnessed firsthand. She was there watching it all go down. Dawn testified at great length about one particular incident that left the room in stunned silence. Without giving away any quotes, she testified about an argument in which Diddy allegedly yelled at Cassie, to the extent that her physical response betrayed the emotional cost his words had imposed. It wasn't only the yelling, though, it was the threatening tone and the manner in which Diddy supposedly manipulated every situation.
Those are things that she's gonna have to bring up into the lawsuit, that Diddy stopped the way that she was working and how she could work by the fact that he would change, like you just said. What she would do, bro, he would turn off her mic and don't let her sing songs or don't let her do certain things, a part of the band, when he didn't do her sexual advancements. I don't know what to say about that, brother. All I can say is that, you know, all of it sounds like using his power. He's using his power to get at people that works for him. And when you do that, when they bring you to court, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna lose if they can prove it.
One text message, Cassie writes, "I'm lost without you."
We know now that she called herself Cece for Cassie Combs. We know now that she wanted to have a child with him.
Jurors also heard an audio recording where Cassie could be heard threatening to kill a Diddy associate who had video of one of her freak-offs with Diddy.
The jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised.
Cassie was asked about receiving a FaceTime from her now husband while she was having sex with Diddy.
I think they're trying to use what they can, again, to discredit her as a witness.
So that Cassie would be helpless to protect herself for Dawn. This was a moment etched in her memory, and she painted it as one of a number of moments where Cassie appeared under Diddy's thumb. The impact of Dawn's testimony did not come from the things she said, but from the way in which she said them. Her voice was said to be laced with traces of anger and sorrow, as if she had been waiting for decades to finally have her say. Legal experts in the room were said to have opined that first-hand accounts such as hers can be influential in a trial. It's one thing to hear accusations in general, but it's another thing to have a witness describe specific incidents that they witnessed for the jury. Such testimony brings the accusations to life in a way that is hard to ignore. And Diddy's response:
"Unfortunately, we're all going to take a disgusting trip to his seedy, awful world. You know, the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual."
The facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear.
That Ventura had a choice and that she chose to participate in those sexual encounters.
Where she is entertaining other people in the bedroom. He enjoyed having the freak-offs.
She's being asked specifically about the drug use.
She is clearly excited about a freak-off.
That was a different story altogether. As Dawn testified, reporters in the courtroom said his body language was defensive, almost as if he hadn't been ready for her to be so blunt. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his face darkened, and he leaned over to his legal team during her testimony. According to reports, while he didn't interrupt, it was obvious that he wasn't pleased with the picture Dawn was painting. And for good reason. Her words weren't just challenging his well-manicured public persona, they were lending credence to Cassie's accusations in a way that couldn't be ignored. But the moment that hit home with the jury and the public watching from the outside was when Dawn reportedly testified that she thought Cassie spent the majority of her time trying to survive. Those 5 words hit like a sledgehammer, summarizing years of alleged physical and emotional abuse in a way that left many in the courtroom visibly shaken. It wasn't just about the fights or the alleged control Diddy held over her. It was about how Cassie had seemed to live in a state of perpetual fear and isolation without any apparent way out. Dawn's testimony wasn't just further evidence, it was a turning point for the trial, creating a ripple effect that would inevitably shape how the jury perceived Diddy from now on. Her testimony connected into the greater narrative that was being constructed around the alleged abuse, adding another layer to the case that the defense will no doubt struggle to counter. As the first week of the trial came to a close, Dawn's testimony hung heavy in the air. They weren't simply about her recollections. They were about casting a light on a situation that had been kept hidden for far too long. And with more witnesses set to take the stand in the coming days, including others who are close to Cassie and Diddy, the courtroom is preparing for more shocking revelations. What's next for this trial? Only time will tell. But for now, Dawn's blockbuster testimony has set the stage for what could be a landmark case in the world of celebrity justice. The courtroom drama escalated further when a jaw-dropping piece of evidence was revealed: an audio recording featuring Cassie. On the tape, she's reportedly heard threatening a Diddy associate who allegedly had video footage of a heated confrontation. The courtroom atmosphere shifted immediately. What could be so explosive that even the jurors were left visibly stunned? That recording marked a turning point in the trial. It didn't just offer a new glimpse into the toxic web of Diddy and Cassie's relationship. It exposed the emotional chaos. Both seemed to be caught in the recording played out for the courtroom, and the words carried raw emotion that no one could ignore. In a Cassie's tone was desperate, furious, and unrelenting. Legal insiders described her words as a reflection of someone worn down by years of conflict and pain. Her threats seemed more like the breaking point of someone who felt trapped rather than premeditation. It was that emotional rawness that gripped the room. Here's what we know about the tape. Cassie's voice is heard addressing a man believed to be a close Diddy associate. This man allegedly had recorded proof of a violent altercation between Cassie and Diddy. Cassie's voice quivers between rage and determination as she demands answers and makes threats to protect herself. The recording shows just how far their issues extended, not only affecting their personal dynamic, but pulling in others who worked for Diddy. And that level of emotional instability, especially the fear of being exposed, was hard for jurors and onlookers alike to ignore. But why would Cassie be on such a precarious edge, threatening someone connected to Diddy? Experts following the trial suggested that moments like these aren't uncommon in abusive relationships. Years of manipulation, isolation, and emotional instability take a toll. People in these situations often reach their limit, manifesting behavior that might seem irrational to outsiders, but in reality is born out of relentless mental and emotional strain. One legal analyst even weighed in, saying the tape added layers of complexity to the ongoing narrative. It didn't just back up claims of an unhealthy abusive relationship. It also suggested that Cassie was living in constant fight or flight mode, where her emotional responses became more extreme over time. The tape wasn't a simple moment of Cassie standing up for herself. It also showed the toll of reportedly being controlled, hurt, and boxed into a volatile relationship for years. You could almost hear that desperation in her voice. This wasn't about revenge. It seemed like survival for the jury. The audio presented a complicated picture. It amplified the severity of the allegations against Diddy, while also forcing them to unpack Cassie's emotional state. Was the recording definitive proof of her struggles? Maybe not on its own, but when paired with Dawn Richards' testimony and other mounting accounts, it painted an even clearer portrait of a toxic cycle. Few could fathom as impactful as the tape. It left other questions for the courtroom to consider. Diddy's legal team is expected to argue that Cassie's emotional outburst discredits her claims, painting a picture of instability to sow doubt around her testimony. This strategy isn't surprising. Defense teams often resort to tactics like this when representing high-profile clients. And let's be clear, this won't just stretch into Cassie's words or actions from the recording. Rumors say more of her past, from her mental health to prior personal interactions, will soon be scrutinized by the defense. But here's the thing, the tape isn't just about one moment of anger. It's about the dynamics behind it. For years, Diddy has been portrayed as an untouchable figure in the music industry, while Cassie has been cast as the girlfriend, her role often reduced to silence or submission in the public eye. That tape cracks that facade wide open. The courtroom wasn't just hearing Cassie's anger, they were hearing her struggle to reclaim power in a relationship where it seemed like she often had none. What comes next could append everything. Will the defense lean harder into discrediting Cassie, or will more testimony, tapes, or evidence further dig into the realities of their relationship? One thing's certain, the jury is now dealing with not just a trial, but a deeply tangled story of power, control, and emotional fallout. And the next move could change everything. The defense team's strategy to shift the focus onto Cassie's past may have seemed calculated at first, but it ultimately brought new dimensions to the case, ones they likely didn't anticipate. By highlighting Cassie's time in rehab, her struggle with PTSD, and a rape allegation from earlier in her life, they intended to dismantle her credibility. They wanted to frame her as emotionally unstable and unreliable, hoping that these personal battles